Off the ball. This is News Talk.
All right, you're welcome along to Thursdays Off the Ball. Nathan with you till 10 o'clock. We have a busy show ahead. There's live football. Liverpool looking to go back 16 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. They take on Wolves at 8 o'clock. John Giles in studio from 7:30, and he'll be sticking with us right throughout the night, keeping an eye on that game on the football show as well. Busy football show coming away because there's a lot going on. In the last couple of hours, Niall Quinn has been appointed as the new interim deputy CEO at the FAI. We'll chat to Philip Quinn about that. Shawnee Maguire is going to talk to us about Preston, who are very much in playoff contention in the Championship. And in the middle hour, we will talk to Keith Wood and to Tom English on a special Thursday night rugby, because we did have that feature interview with Rory Best last night, and a lot going on in the Scotland camp ahead of the Six Nations opener. Their star man, Finn Russell, well, was he sent home? Did he walk? Has sport ever seen the like? If only there was something we could compare it to.
What's
Your
that
star
sound like?
player.
I've never heard anything like it.
Unprecedented is what I'd say.
And Niall Quinn is in the news as well. Dear God. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Ronan Mullen's not even Irish.
Sorry, what? Oh, are you?
It's a harsh topic. Why are you bringing that up?
You're very welcome here tonight,
Thanks,
though, Ronan.
Nathan.
Great to have you here. Richie McCormack,
Hey, Nathan, you all right?
are you all right?
Yeah, good, yeah.
You've been busy. You've been moaning for the first day in about 3 weeks. He's actually had some work to do. And
I know, actual
so
news.
much news. So much news. What's
Actual
been your
news, yeah.
favourite news? Have we got any Finn Russell scandal? Because Simon Zebo was tweeting all sorts, which was sort of hinting at about 8 different reasons why Finn Russell may or may not be part of the Scotland squad. Is there any official, something non-libelous?
Nothing official.
Okay.
He was, according to multiple reports, advised but ignored requests to stop drinking alcohol at the hotel bar on Sunday night.
Okay.
Later leaving the team hotel to return to Stirling on Monday, he didn't appear for the first training session. He was invited back to train today, and he said,
We don't know if any of this is true, Richie.
This is coming from James Cole at Sky.
Okay. Sue him. So he went out in the booze on last Sunday, and they were going into camp on Monday. He wasn't in a fit state to train,
Seemingly.
and then it just lingered on all week to today going, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here. Like, this is enigmatic genius. You just got to put up with this stuff.
He's a maverick.
You just got to go with it.
Is he, though?
Yes.
Scotland are kind
That's
of
exactly
shorn,
what he is.
shorn of actual quality, but is he, like...
He's so unpredictable. On the field, you can almost abide it because he produces some moments of genius. When he carries that off the field, I'm sure his teammates are like, oh dear, he's at it again. So it might be one of these Ewing theory things where because he's gone, the rest of the team up their game and maybe play some more
like tank.
structured rugby.
So again, as if there was a previous example of a team without their star man
Rallying
upping
around.
their game, rallying around and creating some history and some magical things.
Who's Scotland's Matt Holland going to be? That's the
Yeah.
question.
Gavin Hastings' son, Adam Hastings, is the likely step in at
Really?
out half.
Okay.
So maybe that's who it will be. I presume Gavin will stand for the anthem and sing along and all that.
Has anyone checked in with Andy Dunn? Because he's Finn Russell's number one fan, isn't he?
Andy Dunn, like Andy is devastated. This is the equivalent of Take That splitting up for Andy.
He's on tomorrow morning, isn't he?
Is he? Oh, like he set up the Finn Russell fan club. He may be the only member.
One member strong.
You can do no wrong. But what about all those games they lost for years and years and years while he's been their number 10? No. You need that type of character. He's kind of right, though.
Sport's not about winning, it's about...
It's about entertainment, baby.
Entertainment.
Yeah, it's about entertainment, but
Show business.
don't go on the lock in the team hotel when you're told by the coaching staff to stop and then continue on and then bugger off to your folks' home and then come back and then bugger off again once you're told you're not going
Was
to
he
be
playing
playing.
guitar?
Don't try and tie your creative genius down to your silly little rules.
Like going on the lock.
It's 2 weeks away from the game. Come on.
If he was told to stop drinking, if he was told to stop having by his own teammates and by the coaching staff, maybe put the scoops down. Get yourself together, Finn. That is your real name. Doesn't even sound right.
53106 is the text number. Add off the ball if you want to get in touch on Twitter. There is a lot happening in Richie's world. Starting with Niall Quinn. There have been a lot of rumours about this over the last couple of days, but it has been confirmed. He has a lofty title, the interim deputy CEO of the FAI.
There you go. Just earlier this month, the former Republic of Ireland striker and Sunderland chairman ruled himself out of the running to be the actual CEO. Quinn will work alongside new interim CEO, who was name-checked as part of the Visionary Group for Irish Football presented by Quinn last year. New independent chairperson of the FAI, Roy Barrett, is also among that list of names put out by Quinn last year. The FAI say Quinn will focus on League of Ireland strategy as well as helping restore relationships with the media, and Quinn has told Virgin Media that he believes a financial rescue package for the association is close to being signed off upon.
I don't know where it will end up when it finally is announced. I hope it's announced very, very soon, but I'm led to believe that there is an assistance in place from the three stakeholders, the banks, UEFA and the government, that will allow the game to move forward.
Roy Barrett, Gary Owens and Niall Quinn then were all part of, I think it was 9 names initially that were part of this visionary group, and like Roy Barrett is one of the most respected businessmen in the country and somebody I think who shies away from publicity and was seen as a very good person to have as an independent director. Likewise, Gary Owens has a huge amount of business experience, and now maybe they have the personality that when you walk into a room with government and UEFA, they'll listen. So they have a sort of perfect trifecta of...
As in Quinn's personality? But you've, like me, have read that document that Quinn presented last year.
Yeah, and here, it wasn't the most convincing.
Well, to that, it kind of needed to be. If you're going to be presenting a vision for Irish football, you want, at the very least, sentences that make sense. And it was often lacking in that regard, to say the least, and it was very light on detail and how it would implement a lot of the plans that they had seemingly blue-skied here.
It was, but it was put together by a group, I think, where an awful lot of them were working in full-time, high-powered jobs, and this was very much a side project because they wanted something for the betterment of Irish football to get together. I'm not saying it was perfect, and I know an awful lot of people in the League of Ireland in particular, when they see that a large part of Niall Quinn's job is going to be focusing on League of Ireland strategy, will go back to that document, but they now have a bit more time and are actually in there to see what can be achieved. What I do think is that Niall Quinn has stepped up, that a lot of former footballers come on and talk, give their opinion, that whether you like him or don't like him, actually he's prepared to go in and get his hands dirty.
You know this more than me. Was the role of interim deputy CEO one that was flagged as being a thing when this new FAI government's review was flagged?
No, but
then why is he there? Why do we?
Well, I think from listening to his interview, so he did an interview with Virgin Media with Tommy Martin earlier on, and it's a very lengthy interview. That Gary Owens, his strengths are on the business side of things, and maybe they looked at this and thought, on the pure footballing side. So the business side is obviously massively important right here, right now, but you can't just press pause on football for the next year until there's a new full-time CEO and full-time deputy CEO appointed. So they wanted somebody with the knowledge base, with the expertise, with the connections on the footballing side to come in, and that's where Niall Quinn comes into it.
When you say they?
I imagine the new board of directors, the independent directors, the directors that are already there, the new CEO.
And Barrett and Owens were named as part of Quinn's visionary group back in May.
Yeah, but people have come together to try and make Irish football work. People will know each other. I understand, and Tommy Martin, in fairness to him, put this question to Niall Quinn, that you could look at this and people will look at this and go, is this a sort of jobs for the boys, that suddenly you're all in and there's a takeover happening of the FAI? It's like, well, look, if people look at us as being as bad as the last lot, we're not. This is not what we're about, and if we are, well, we should be thrown out.
Yeah, I just wish behind them they would have something a little bit more concrete than that document that was released last summer. Because if you're going to take 3 people from that visionary group and put them at the head of reforming the FAI, restructuring the FAI and getting them that financial rescue package that they so desperately need, I want a few more concrete ideas than they presented.
Yeah, and listen, their objectives at the end of it, there was talk of, qualifying for the semi-finals of a World Cup by 2038, have one League of Ireland team qualify for the group stages of the Champions League by 2027. Some of them are extremely ambitious and out of their hands to a large degree. But, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Niall Quinn, I'm sure we will over the coming weeks about this, maybe it was a bit more thrown together than they would have liked. But I don't think we should write off this grouping on the basis of that document.
I'm not writing them off, I'm merely questioning how they...
And they will. They will have to answer questions.
As a group risen to that position.
There's still quite a bit of confusion in terms of... So Niall Quinn has a hefty enough title in terms of all the things he's taking on. So he's leading focus on leading a future League of Ireland strategy, overall development of the game in Ireland, including supporting grassroots community initiatives together with a player pathway programme. Like, that's a huge job on an interim basis. Is it 6 months? Is it 9 months? How much of that you can get through before a permanent CEO comes in and wants to rip it all up and start again? But I think the FAI need to start moving forward in terms of, like, we can't just press pause forever. We need to keep on the investigations. People still need to be held to account. But like, strategies will have to be put in place as Irish football grows over the next 10 years.
Absolutely. That's a given. We want people actually making decisions and not just firefighting the whole time. That's absolutely fine. I think people are entitled to question how those three people came to be at the head of the queue.
Well, I don't think so. I think Roy Barrett, as we pointed out already, is like an unbelievably successful business person. He's the MD of Goodbody Stockbrokers, who has always had a very keen interest in Irish football, but because of what was there in the previous regime, never really had an opportunity. Likewise, Gary Owens, very successful business person. And Niall Quinn, whether or not you agree with his vision, is one of our greatest ever players, has been the chairman of a Premier League club and is entitled to go for a role like this. It may not be forever. It may well be that there are other people that when these jobs are advertised go and apply and are better qualified and get those roles. But somebody had to step into these. Like, if the independent directors weren't appointed, the FAI was going to go bust. Like, they needed independent directors, or else the FAI weren't going to restore the funding. And everything we're hearing is that, even Niall Quinn said, some stage next week, we're expecting that the 18 million will be coming, that those meetings with UEFA, with the banks, with the FAI are going to come to fruition. And they'll have some sort of a stay. And that had to happen. Like, there'll always be questions of the personalities involved, but somebody has to run Irish football.
I don't think there should be questions of the personalities involved. I think you should be just happy to accept who is in charge and move on. I don't think
anybody is. I think there will always be, absolutely, but there will always be questions. But everything I've seen of the independent director, the chairperson of the board in Roy Barrett, is that, like, he is somebody who throughout his career has firstly not wanted the limelight and has been incredibly successful, who, when you walk into a room with the banks, and Vincent Wall was on OTBAM last week saying, when he walks into the room with the banks, they will know that they are dealing with a serious person. And that's what they need. That's what they need right now. Who do you want as the footballing alternative, the footballing voice in that room?
I'm just curious as to who else from the visionary group will suddenly turn up in a newly created role on the FAI board. Interim deputy CEO. There was no deputy CEO before then. Why does there need to be one now? I know you're saying that he's a quote-unquote football man and is better served towards...
Unless I'm mistaken, I think there was a deputy CEO role previously. I think Sarah O'Shea was in there at some stage as a deputy CEO. But just because they came together previously doesn't mean they can't come together again. So just because they had previous links... And listen, people are perfectly entitled to question anybody who is in the position of power at the FAI right now. And certainly, whatever's there needs to be a transparency to who is running the FAI over the coming years. But I don't think you can just rule everybody out because, well, they have come together previously and you didn't like what they put forward.
No, I'm not ruling anybody out. I'm just saying it's curious how they've all come together at once and their document needed a lot more work. And it shouldn't have just,
certainly. And listen,
it should have just been a side project, as you mentioned there.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the League of Ireland. Kieran Lucid is doing a lot of work, I know, still at the moment, and particularly over the next few weeks, he's getting a lot of the stakeholders together for roundtable discussions about how to progress the All-Ireland League and where Niall Quinn fits into that now, and how supportive the FAI will be. I would imagine that they will be quite supportive of efforts towards that. So, listen, hopefully we get to talk to Niall Quinn. Obviously, he's a regular enough guest on the show, and we get to chat to him over the coming days, coming weeks. We could put all these questions to him. 53106 is the text number. There is some live football tonight as well.
Yeah, and it's a match of some significance too. Leaders Liverpool looking to continue their unbeaten start to the Premier League season. They're away to Wolves. Jurgen Klopp's side can go 16 points clear of Manchester City with victory this evening, and they'll still have a game in hand. The teams are in. Rui Patricio starts in goal for Wolves. They've got their back three of Leander Dendoncker, Conor Cody and Roman Saiz. Matt Doherty and Johnny provide the width. In midfield, it's João Moutinho and Ruben Neves, with Adama Traore and Neto flanking Raul Jimenez. For for Liverpool, unchanged from that win over Manchester United at the weekend, with Alisson in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson as their back four. Jordan Henderson, Ginny Van Aldum and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain are their midfield. And the front three we've come to know so well: Sadio Mane, Mo Salah and Roberto Firmino, and kick-off is at 8 o'clock.
Sarah O'Shea was appointed as the FAI's first ever Deputy CEO back in 2014, and a text in, has Quinny said what his salary is going to be for this? What he has said is that it is a fraction of what the previous executives were paid, and also that he's going to defer his salary until the full state of the FAI's financial setup is known. So he hasn't given an exact figure, but I expect, and again maybe I am being naive here, that whoever's going in at a high level in the FAI is going to be getting a fraction of what the previous executive.
I'd imagine that would be one of the demands of whoever's putting together this rescue financial package.
360 grand a year, or I'm out, baby. That's what's putting me off applying.
That's in fairness, that's what we're all worth in this room.
That's the base.
That's what we're all worth in this room. Manchester United, meanwhile, will learn the identity of their FA Cup fourth round opponents tonight. Tranmere and Watford finally play their rearranged third round replay. It's at Prenton Park, where kick-off is at 7:45. The winners will play on Sunday.
Yeah, well, this is like another cup that has just been destroyed. So we had the ridiculous situation of Liverpool, obviously, in the Carabao Cup, playing Aston Villa the day before the World Club Cup. And I'm actually going to be in Watford on Sunday. Little dancing programme that takes place just outside. I was looking, maybe I get a game in beforehand. Now, obviously, the second I broached the subject of the one Sunday I'm going to be England with my wife.
Would you mind?
You wouldn't like it.
Bring a microphone with you.
Quickly thrown out. But then I was thinking, wait a second, Watford played on Tuesday night in the Premier League.
Yeah.
There's no way this game is going to happen on Sunday. So they're going to play 3 games in the space of 5 days.
They are. Like, to be fair, Watford were going to play a second string in the original third round replay anyway. Nigel Pearson had made no secret of that whatsoever. And I think tonight again is the same story. For Tranmere, it becomes more problematic because they're a League Two side who'd be, playing 2 games in 4 days, and both against Premier League opposition. It's not great, and it kind of shows there's all the more reason for these replays to be scrapped altogether. I know there's a lot saying that lower division teams would be grateful of the income that they generate, but for all concerned, this is a shambles.
Keeping very quiet there, Ronan. You okay?
I'm all good. I'm just thinking all this stuff about the FA Cup, and it will almost certainly lend a reprieve for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or so that will be put forward. But it's not really true anymore, is it?
They're still alive in 3 European
There is no reprieve.
fronts.
No.
We're past the reprieve stage. We know that it's dead, but we're just going to keep.
Not according to the Times this evening.
What the?
Full backing of the board, baby.
Of course he does.
He's going to get 6 signings in. Maybe not this window, maybe not the next, but soon, and for the rest of his life.
Instead of issuing a statement to leaked sources, maybe just give the man some money, buy some players.
Oof.
Wow.
We
were there on the first day of the season, Nathan. They beat Chelsea 4-0.
Yes.
Granted that that result wasn't necessarily reflective of how
the game
went.
I'm glad actually, because if you listen back to, and I think Kilban was with me, if you listen back to the analysis, it was very much like this was not a 4-0 by any of the stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, but even said that, like the formula that he put forward that day was effective. So he got that solid base, and then broke constantly throughout the game. But 3 of the players from that day were playing last night.
Right.
So
wow.
What's the man supposed to achieve necessarily with Andreas Pereira, nice guy, seems like a nice young man.
Nice guy. Guy.
Seems like a nice fella, academy product, etc. But, hooked off at half time. He's not going to be the creative hub. And Paul Pogba, for all the chagrin that's been around him, and he probably shouldn't be there anymore. But if they had sold him last summer, they would have got at least 2 or 3 players in to fill that gap. And the alternative, option C, was that he's still there, but he's not playing.
Well, you would have figured that the plan would have been, if they sold Romelu Lukaku, if they were selling their main striker for a hefty fee that they did to Inter, that they would get in replacements, and that didn't happen. So there's nothing to say they would have done the same for Pogba.
Well, replacements, but who do you? So they sold him for about 70 million. If you're going to spend that money, you're going to be buying a striker who expects to play. And they have in Marcus Rashford, one of the best young forwards in Europe. So they find themselves in almost a Tottenham-esque scenario of, we know that Marcus Rashford is our guy for the next 4 or 5 years. But when he's injured, as he is now, we need somebody who's happy to come on, who can make an impression. That's a hard little balance to get when you are reliant on one striker.
There's nothing to say they were reliant on one striker, though. They were kind of fond of doing 2s and 3s and stuff up front. And again, that plays into the problem that is overlying at Manchester United, is that there is no real sense of what an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tactical setup is. And he's been there, how many months has it been, Graham Souness? 14, 15 months? So, yeah, like that's the problem there.
Like I was looking at some of the statistics last night, and like they're all horrifying, clearly, for Manchester United and the teams that they've been beaten by. So obviously Liverpool last weekend, but the other games they've lost this season against teams in 10th, 11th, 13th, 14th, 17th, 18th and 19th, all in the bottom half of the table. Even you look slightly above that, I think they've 4 points from the 5 games against the teams in 7th, 8th and 9th. Like, once they have the ball, they don't know what to do with it. Like, Fred is as brain dead as you can get when he has the ball. And people talk about him in the game against Liverpool. Like, the game against Liverpool was the perfect game, where it was 100 miles an hour, helter-skelter. He never gets a second to actually think what he has to do.
Yeah.
So all he has to do is get little touches in here, get passes forward as quickly as you can, just try and release it over the top. But in a game like last night, where they're like laying siege is probably even exaggerating what they were doing to Burnley, where he has time to pick out a pass or has to try and be creative. Like, he doesn't have it in his locker.
Another bit, whatever bit of creativity from a defensive standpoint last night, particularly for the first goal, for them to be beaten in the air, and Nemanja Matic to be beaten in the air the way he was for the setup for that goal, and then for Harry Maguire, an £80 million defender, to essentially wave through Chris Woods to take a shot and beat David De Gea. Like, that's shameful stuff from people who've been paid an awful lot of money and really should be better in themselves and also coached better.
Can't believe you're knocking guys putting their professional reputations on the line. Who do you think should take on the FAI role? Typical Irish response, loads of knockers with no proposed alternative from John. Like, there is a point in that 3 weeks, a month ago, we were looking at a situation where nobody would come in as independent directors because of the debt that was there and because of the risk that was involved. So people are putting themselves on the line. And also, it's a small country whereby no matter who is involved, and we're all so invested in Irish football, nobody's going to be satisfied.
How many times did Noel Quinn say that he didn't want a higher up role in the FAI over the past couple of months?
He said he didn't want the CEO role. But things have changed, obviously. Because he, as you have pointed out, he's now working with people he trusts. He didn't want to find himself back in a situation of an old FAI scenario where Niall Quinn has been put out there. Look at the bright new future of the FAI. We've got Niall Quinn involved. But actually, he's no real power. He's no real role. Where he now has people alongside him who he knows, who he can work with, who he can trust, and feels like he can get something done.
To my memory, he also said he didn't want to serve as an independent director.
But he's not serving as an independent director.
I know, yeah, but why not?
I have no idea. He can answer that himself.
Fair enough.
But he's not an independent director. Jesus, Richie.
Hello.
I like any text that starts with that. Will you stop calling it Liverpool's unbeaten start to the season? It's almost February, for Christ's sake. Aidan in Lucan, come on the Toffees.
This is one of the last few games, if you look at their fixture list, where like this could be the night they potentially.
Oh, this is definite.
Troublesome.
Like, Wolves are a brilliant team to watch, the sort of team that Liverpool would struggle against. I know they're unchanged, but they've got a really good run of 4 or 5 games against the teams that are just battering coming up. Like, we're definitely at the stage of when will they win the title. Game 49 is Manchester City at the Etihad. If they're still unbeaten, equal Arsenal's record, and win the title that day.
We got to the point the other day, it was the first time I mentioned it, you know you're in potential title winning mode when they say just X more wins and they're going to win the title. Somebody said they need 30 more points, so that's what, 10 wins? They're going to be champions. That's when you know you're rolling downhill with all the momentum and there's no stopping you.
And it's something that's...
Which means they're going to make aims from here on in.
But it's something that's almost tangible. You can hear, like the commentators mentioned it on Sky at the weekend, that the fans were getting edgy towards the end of the Manchester United game, and you're like, why? Like, whatever about...
because it was United.
United getting an equaliser possibly, but they're never going to win the game.
Well, I also, like I touched on it with Joe Monday night, that like Liverpool are probably at a level now, and obviously we're in a world where the Liverpool-United rivalry is so toxic that any little opportunity to criticise Liverpool is jumped upon. So before Christmas it was, you can't call them a great team. Defensively, they're letting in a lot of goals. Haven't conceded a goal now in 7, where it's, defensively, they give up chances. Whereas as if there was a team that has never given the opportunity, possession or opportunities during a game. But that's just what they're going to have to... I don't think they'll be overly...
They're now a machine.
Concerned.
They're now a team that people are sick of watching because they're actually so successful.
The sea change at the start of the season, where they totally changed how they defended with the defensive line. And you're wondering, that seems a bit risky. But like obviously that was with the knowledge of the new microscopic offside.
Offside.
So they just knew that we can take chances now that previous generations couldn't, where we know that if we can catch these guys even by a fraction, we're going to get the call. And it just that was a genius move, and it's borne out across how they've approached the season, really.
All right, that is us done for the news round. I don't think we fully utilised your Ronan there. I think there was a lot more to offer, but Richie was just so bloody angry this evening. It was a right old struggle. We've got a lot more to come. Philip Quinn's going to talk to us on the football show about Niall Quinn's appointment. We will talk to Shawnee Maguire as well. Preston flying in the championship at the moment. John Giles, though, is on the way next.
Off the ball on News Talk.
When you sign family members up with Vodafone Red Family, our multi-mobile package, you're guaranteed the convenience of one bill and monthly savings with a third plan free when your